What's going on, everyone? Isaac Edelman here alongside Jeremiah Hensley. Here on FL Teams, we are going to be previewing a great Thursday night football matchup. It's the Miami Dolphins going up against the Cincinnati Bengals. Before we begin, make sure to check out flteams.com and at FL Teams on all social media platforms. Remember, FL Teams is your go-to one-stop shop for all Florida sports coverage. Obviously, if you're listening to this show today, you probably know about FL Teams, but if you don't, we are dedicated to covering everything sports related in the state of Florida. Obviously, we hope everyone is safe during Hurricane Ian. And look, the Dolphins game is on for tomorrow because it is in Cincinnati. So the Bengals are the home team here. Thursday night football, primetime games. We know what happens. The Dolphins come out and really dominate on primetime games. We know what happened. The last time the Dolphins played on Thursday night, they defeated the Ravens. That was a heck of a game at Hard Rock Stadium. But this time we have a road game. Jeremiah, how are you doing today, my man?
I'm doing fantastic, man. I'm ready for this Thursday. Couple different reasons, man. I'm really ready. I'm excited to see the Dolphins play again after Sunday. And I'm also like, this team's had some rough games in the first 3 weeks. So I kind of like having that Thursday night. Means I can have a stress-free Sunday. And it also means that the guys get a little more time off. It's almost like a mini bye. So looking forward to seeing what comes out of this game. A lot of trash talk already going back and forth. And, the last couple of times we played Cincinnati, it got a little choppy to the point where Flores went on the sidelines during one of those games. I'm excited, man. Thursday night is an opportunity, hopefully, for the rest of the country to see what we've been looking at and actually watch this Miami team play instead of just see the highlights. So a lot of good things coming forward, man. Super excited.
Absolutely, Jeremiah. So let's get right into it. Dolphins, Bengals. Two teams that have high hopes for this season, two teams that have two talented rosters, but only one of these teams has been playing well this season, and that's the Miami Dolphins, which is surprising because, yes, the Dolphins have a good roster, but arguably the Bengals are the more talented team. And look, that's really just going off of last year because they made it to the Super Bowl. Obviously, they lost to the Rams, but they have had more success with their QB, Joe Burrow, than the Dolphins had with Tua. However, Tua has been way better than Joe Burrow this season, and that's not even a question. First of all, Tua's been better than almost every QB in the NFL this season. But yeah, QB matchup here, Joe Burrow versus Tua, both in the same draft class. Let's start with that, Jeremiah. Do you have an outlook for this matchup tomorrow night?
Whoever keeps the quarterback clean is going to do way better. Cincinnati, of course, much maligned the first 2 weeks of the season. Joe Burrow was just getting pounded. I don't care who you are. If you don't have time in the pocket, you're not going to be a successful quarterback. Last week against the Jets, looks like the offensive line started to gel a little better for Cincinnati. But even still, there was times under duress. Miami's offensive line has done a pretty good job of keeping Tua out of pressure. I think that's going to be the story. Is if either one of these guys get time to throw, they're going to create problems, right? I mean, there's just the wide receiver talent that's going to be on the field on both sides is just unbelievable. If you give them enough time, they'll make you pay. So, but when it comes to all that, I truly do believe the way Josh McDaniels running this offense, it's set up to showcase what Tua does well and keep him away from the situations that he doesn't. So I think Miami's offense is probably the least worry for me in this game. I think the offense, we're still going to be able to go out and put up points. I like that we've been able to find ways to win games no matter what it is. Because, look, for you to have a successful NFL season, you're going to have to win different types of ball games, right? You're going to have to win the shootout. You're going to have to win the defensive struggle. You're going to have to win when you weren't supposed to. I still don't know what to make of Cincinnati. You and I talked last year and when we were doing the playoff breakdowns and everything else, I think Cincinnati caught lightning in a bottle near the end of last season. But I'm not shocked that they're 1-2. I'm a little shocked that they lost to the Cowboys without Dak.
Yeah.
But their offense isn't putting up that many points. I mean, their highest output was last week, 27 against the Jets. And the Jets are pretty bad all the way around.
And Jamar Chase only put up 29 receiving yards last week.
Yeah. So, their running game, I don't know. The offense, To me, Cincinnati as a whole, to me, I'm not completely sold on. They have they're probably the third best team in their division, quite honestly. Once Cleveland gets Deshaun Watson back, I don't think I think they're much better than Cincinnati. Like I said, I think they caught lightning in a bottle. I think the defense getting some pressure last week was good to see. We actually got to Josh Allen a couple of times and got in and created a little havoc. But that's the main thing. When it comes to these quarterbacks, it's, again, not groundbreaking, but whoever has time is going to make you pay.
Yeah. Look, if I'm reading these stats correctly, the Bengals do not have a rushing touchdown all season long through 3 games. So that is something to keep note of. So that means Joe Mixon hasn't really gotten going yet. And that's key for the Dolphins because their defense always struggles with the run game. We're always good in terms of, getting pressure to the QB. We always get fumbles. We get sacks. Obviously, our secondary is really talented, even with Byron Jones out. But the run defense is a struggle for us, and it has been for the last 5 years, I'd say. But that's a good sign for the Dolphins. They won't have to, at least I hope so, deal with the Bengals running game because I think it's going to be a shootout. But we're too early to predict. We have to really analyze.
Yeah.
So what you were saying, Jeremiah, is that, right, it's going to be a battle of which QB has more time in the pocket. Well, that is true, but also Tua has some injury concerns. It looks like he's going to play. Yes, he's listed as questionable, but he is probably going to play on Thursday night. And that doesn't mean he's fully healthy because he's not. I think that a few hits to the ground, a few sacks could injure Tua. And he's very fragile, more fragile than a regular quarterback. And it's a back injury, even worse. So besides the fact that you want to give Tua more time to throw to Tyreek Hill and Waddle down the field, Tua is injured. And a few sacks could keep him in the game, but it could make his skill level a bit worse. So the Dolphins definitely need to protect Tua. Now, Waddle and Tyreek Hill, we know they've had success this season, but this is one thing I love, and I'm sure all Dolphin fans love this. They've been injury-free thus far. You say it's only been 3 games. Well, Devontae Parker gets injured every single second, and Preston Williams gets off the field, and this and that. Tyreek Hill and Waddle have been healthy. I know it's only been 3 games, but people, this is what us Dolphin fans have been living with.
We finally have a wide receiver core that's like consistently out there. It is pretty amazing. I do worry about Tua and the back injury a little bit. He's a gamer. He's going to tough it out. I think more concerning, and dude, it's such a small sample size that I don't even really want to bring it up, but it grabbed me right away. When Tua did go down at the end of the first half against Buffalo, I expected more comfort from Teddy Bridgewater. I mean, again, I know it was only a couple of plays. It's in the middle of a division game, all that stuff. I get it. And you don't expect them to come out and lighten it up. But Teddy Bridgewater didn't look any better than Jacoby Brissett looked last year.
Yeah.
And that concerns me a little bit. If Tua goes down, where is that comfort level?
Yeah.
Because we, as good as, we're talking about not being able to stop the run, we haven't been able to run the ball. I mean, we have, when you look at it, I mean, it's mixed up. It's a different type of running. We don't have one stud that's doing it. But I think the running game has made big plays in all 3 weeks for us.
Yeah.
Defensively, we've been lucky. I mean, let's be realistic. The best running back we faced in 3 weeks is Lamar Jackson. And Lamar Jackson diced us for 111, 120 yards, whatever it was, right?
Yeah.
Because Buffalo doesn't really run the ball. I mean,
Singletary
Josh
did
Allen.
terrific last game, though.
Yeah, well, but Josh Allen threw it 60 times. Had they set it down and ran it a little more, they may have gotten into the end zone in those red zone trips.
Yeah. Well, here was positive, though. Singletary had only 13 rushing yards. He had 78 receiving yards, though, so a lot of dump off passes. But this is also going to be interesting. The fact that the Dolphins, coming into this game, have had success with, Xavier Howard, kind of. Right? I was a little confused. Obviously, Stephon Diggs is a heck of a receiver, but Xavier Howard just was getting beaten up by Stephon Diggs. And that's a concern because Jamar Chase is as talented as Stephon Diggs. And Chase will make you pay if you take one step to the left when he's to the right, right? So I am excited. I'm excited for not just this QB matchup because both of these QBs are from the same draft class, but this wide receiving matchup. T. Higgins and Tyler Boyd have been pretty good this season. And when you have Jamar Chase on one side of the field and the Dolphins defense is going to focus on him, Boyd and Higgins will make you pay. But the same goes for the Dolphins, right? If Hill is double teamed, well, Waddle will get open, or even Gesicki. Gesicki was really impressive against the Ravens, but the Bills, again, Gesicki's inconsistent. We could expect that. So we'll see what happens this week. Jeremiah, let's touch on the offensive line for the Dolphins again, because the Bengals D-line is talented, whether it's Trey Hendrickson, who, by the way, went to FAU, so I like to bring up those Florida. I know that's a funny name, but, I can't figure out if the Bengals defense is talented. They haven't been that good this season. Last year, I didn't think they were good, and then, boom, they made it to the Super Bowl. What do you have to say about this offensive line for the Dolphins going up against this Bengals D-line?
I like the matchup. The offensive line, to me, it has been a true thing this year that Teron Armstead, one guy who is a veteran, can be a game changer, and he has been. This offensive line has looked way better. Against defensive fronts that aren't weak. Baltimore's defensive front is talented. Buffalo is very talented. You're talking Von Miller. You're talking our other University of Miami guy. I forget his name right now, but the other defensive, Rousseau. Right?
I was going to say Jalen Phillips, but you're talking about the
right. No, Greg Rousseau. So the Dolphins have held up pretty well on the offensive end. Now they're a little banged up. Teron Armstead's dealing with a toe injury, which he's had for 2 weeks, but with a veteran like him, he just doesn't practice throughout the week. Last week was interesting to me because we started plugging and playing a little bit. Greg Little came in, and then he got hurt, and we had to go, 2-3 deep. What I like is this Dolphins offensive line now. Guys that are coming in on that second or third wave are guys we were counting on to start last year, right? This offensive line has gotten progressively better. I think it's also very much scheme-oriented. When we busted off big runs at the end of, in the third and fourth quarters, the holes have been there for guys like for Edmonds and Mostert to get through there. So I think just the blocking scheme and the way that they're getting out. Cincinnati, I don't have a good feel for their defense, quite honestly. I saw them through the playoffs, but really everything that I flash back and remember from the playoffs was a lot of the offense making big plays. I don't remember big defensive stops. I will always remember, thank you, Jeff McElino, Eli Apple. So Eli Apple is back there in the secondary, so that's a target. I think we're going to hold up all right. Cincinnati's offensive line they should be better. Cincinnati spent a lot of money on the offensive line because everybody saw them lose the Super Bowl last year and everything was protect Burrow, you win. Protect Burrow, you win. And then in the first 2 games of the year, he got knocked around. 15, 16 sacks in the first 2 games?
Yeah.
The Jets didn't get to him as much, but I give that more to the Jets than I do, them being the Jets, than I do that being a offensive line coming together.
Yeah.
So I still think Miami's pass rush showed life last week. Ingram has been absolutely outstanding. Jalen Phillips is starting to get some heat coming through there. Christian Wilkins causing problems up the middle. I like what we have the ability to do. I think we can get to Burrow a little easier than they're going to get to Tua. And maybe that, again, is a lot to do with scheme-wise, right? Because still with Tua, you're still running a lot of quick slants and quick reads and get them out. Cincinnati seems to be more of that team that's geared toward taking it over the top. So you got to buy a little more time to make that happen.
Yeah, I'm concerned if you're asking me.
Mm-hmm.
Trey Hendrickson, I know I may be a little biased because I'm an FAU fan, but he was named AFC Defensive Player of the Week. 2.5 sacks last game. Again, I know it's the Jets, but that's impressive. Mm-hmm. But I'm going to be honest. The Dolphins don't have a top offensive line. Trey Hendrickson is going to cause problems Thursday night. I will assure you of that. And again, with Tua banged up, I don't want to see this. If Trey Hendrickson gets 2.5 sacks this week, Tua may be in trouble. We may see Teddy Bridgewater. And I want to go back to what you said about Teddy Bridgewater. I'm going to be a little bit easier on Teddy here. He was only in for one drive. He got sacked. That wasn't his fault. That was completely the offensive line, right? He was in the pocket. He didn't roll out. That was his fault. The Dolphins' O-line's fault. Sorry. But that one pass he made, no one was open. He forced it to Waddle, and it was incomplete. If you're asking me, Bridgewater had few practice throws on the sideline. He didn't expect to play. You just get inputted right into the rotation. That's hard. That is hard. Like, I understand that was a bad pass, but no one was open, and it was his first pass of the game. He didn't get too many practice throws on the sideline. So you have to give Bridgewater some slack. But now with Tua banged up, I want Bridgewater to, like, again, maybe I'll cut him some slack again if he plays Thursday night, but we shouldn't have to. Like, I want him to go right into the lineup at the helm and complete passes. Let's be honest. Bridgewater is a veteran, so he has good decision-making skills, but he has Hill and Waddle. Like, I know Bridgewater is not the best quarterback anymore because he's on the older side of, playing football, but he has weapons, right? He has weapons. He did decent, right, as a backup for the Broncos and the Saints these past few years. They didn't have the best weapons. The Dolphins do. All Bridgewater needs to do is lob up a pass like Tua did against the Ravens. They're there to catch it. So I want to talk about that. So Eli Apple now. That's another conversation. I don't know if you guys saw Tyreek Hill's interview, but he's ready to go up against Eli Apple. And I wish we had our Tampa Bay Lightning and Tampa Bay Rays contributor, Jeff Macalino. Jeff's a Saints fan. He hates Eli Apple. And we did a lot of Super Bowl coverage last year. And obviously Eli Apple was in the Super Bowl. And he did terrible in the Super Bowl. And Jeff predicted it. I wish we could have Jeff on here. I know he's not a Dolphins fan, but Jeff would say that Tyreek Hill is going to absolutely tear up Eli Apple this week. And I know Dolphin fans are going to hope for that. Look, let's be honest. Tua is going to do what he said. Tua said whenever he sees Eli Apple guarding Tua, he's going to throw the ball to Tyreek Hill. Mm-hmm. And it's going to win the Dolphins the game.
Yeah, but now look, as much crap as we gave Eli Apple in the AFC Championship game last year, he held Tyreek in check. Yeah. That's why Tyreek's so worked right now, right? Tyreek says he owes him, but he held him in check. But see, that's my thing is like, I'm still okay with that. Like, I came away so much more confident in the Dolphins' resiliency and the ability to persevere and win the game and all aspects coming together, right? I mean, last week was, you've been a Dolphin fan a long time, so have I. I have seen last week's games many times. What I haven't seen is a team that kept being resilient and make plays when it matters. I mean, something that nobody will ever talk about with Tua this year, right? It's funny, or ever maybe, when they talk about Tua and being clutch or anything else that he is. Almost every one of those big throws that you look back and you see on highlights, those were third down throws. Those were third down and long. The big hit that basically ended up winning the game last week against Buffalo was on 3rd and 22. In Baltimore, he hits Tyreek on a 3rd and 17. Like, he's making big throws at big times. If Apple's going to come over, the thing is really you got to pick your poison. It is a little scary that Buffalo's entire secondary was beat down last week.
Yeah.
I mean, like, bad. They were down 3 starters and 2 on the defensive line.
And we didn't expose them that much.
No, we didn't at all. And so that's, I'm still a little bit worried about the consistency of that. I'll tell you though, Isaac, coming into to tomorrow night's game, here's my biggest concern. Cincinnati got their first win. They've got some momentum that they're starting to build. The Dolphins defense has got to be gassed. I mean, they have got to be. Sunday, they were on the field for 3/4 of that game.
Yeah, definitely.
And not only that, but it was a bend, don't break, right? So they were moving the ball. Buffalo ends up going 0-3 in the red zone. The only reason that we're walking away with a win, The Dolphins D bowed up when they needed to, and again made big stops. They did it in Baltimore. If you remember, when the Ravens almost went up 14-0, that was the fumble on the goal line, and the Dolphins recover it. So the Dolphins defense has been getting backed up more this year than I'm used to. I expected them to be a little more dominant, but they're holding tight when it comes to scoring points.
Yeah.
I'm just afraid they're going to be gassed, that they're really going to be worn out in how much time that is on a short turnaround. And this isn't the offense you want to face if that's the case, right? Yeah. You'd love to have the Jets on the schedule for Thursday night if you're a little beaten, banged up. You don't want Jamar Chase, T. Higgins, Joe Burrow, and Joe Mixon.
Yeah. Well, one positive, and this is usually a concern, but luckily it's not a concern for Thursday night's game. The Dolphins defense never knows how to shut down a tight end. Luckily, the Bengals only have Hayden Hurst at tight end. So I feel like the Dolphins could take a break, and that's good because you said if they're so worn down, they're going to have trouble. At least they don't have to worry so much about the tight end room that Cincinnati has. They couldn't stop Mark Andrews. Dawson Knox, I mean, look,
he gave him trouble.
Yeah.
It was the same thing.
The Dolphins defense just it's similar to like stopping the run. The Dolphins defense never knows how to shut down a tight end, and that's probably due to the linebacker situation. Jerome Baker is inconsistent. He's really good at stopping a running back from penetrating next to him, but he doesn't know how to block a tight end. When it comes down to this, Jamar Chase is going to give the Dolphins problems. It's as simple as that. And if Jamar Chase doesn't give you problems, it's going to be Joe Mixon. I know Mixon doesn't have a touchdown this season, but someone on this Bengals offense is going to give you problems. They have weapons. That's why they made the Super Bowl last year. You're not that much different on the offensive end. Higgins, Boyd, Chase, Mixon, Pirine, same guys.
Just a better offensive line on paper, right?
And that means even more damage then.
Exactly. So I really do think in something that I've seen people who aren't Dolphin fans that are, friends of mine and they understand and know how this season's going. They've started to get exposed to Mike McDaniel just a little bit. And all of them have the same thing to say where they're like, this guy doesn't even look like he should be coaching high school. Like, who is this dude? But if you listen to his press conferences, you see the way that he interacts with the team. I think he's a very, very intelligent in-game manager, right? The second half of games, the Dolphins have made big plays. They've made adjustments and they've came through. So I really do think, and I'll be surprised if it goes anywhere different, with Tua being banged up the way he is, okay, as much time as the defense spent on the field, I think tomorrow night we may see a lot more of a run-heavy offense. We may see a lot more of Mike McDaniel breaking out the jet sweeps to Tyreek and to Jalen. Yeah. And you see a lot of Mostert and Chase Edmonds because you want to grind the clock. Not only because Joe Burrow and that offense are explosive, you want to keep them on the sideline, but you want to keep your defense from getting exposed. So, I think in order for us to have a shot at winning this game, that has to happen. We have to be more committed to the run game than we have been. It protects Tua from getting hit. Right. And plus, if you don't get the respect on that, you lose all faith in the play action. And that's where Tua is an absolute assassin. In the play action passing game, Tua is deadly. So I see it as probably not as high scoring as people think it's going to be. I think we're going to try to grind it out a little more. And look, I'm staying on that even kill. I don't know. You and I were joking before this. When I looked at the first 4 games of the season, in my head, I was like, we come out of that 2-2, we're in good shape, right? 2-2, New England, Baltimore, Buffalo, Cincinnati, 2-2, and then the rest of the schedule is not crazy, right? We're 3-0. So if we lose this game, and I implore any and all Dolphin fans to be the same, it's not time to jump off the bridge. It's not time to say that Tua's a bust and everything's all false in reality. It's not. Right? It's the NFL. This defense spent a lot of time on the field, getting physically dominated on Sunday. With all that being said, I trust in the way that McDaniel's gotten this team ready to play and ready to win. And I'll still take our playmakers over theirs. Jamar Chase is a heck of a playmaker. I don't think there's one better in the NFL than Tyreek Hill. And Jalen Waddle's quickly climbing that list.
Yeah.
So,
if we lose, I won't be upset, but I still will want to dissect what happened. And if we lose, I could tell it's probably going to be because Waddle and Hill did not have the best games. That means Jesse Bates and Von Bell shut them down. And that's where I would have to shift my focus to the Dolphins running game. As good as Hill is, he is stopped every once in a while.
Mhm.
The Dolphins need to rely on their running game. Chase Edmonds and Mostert have had their moments. They've had key runs that have gone in the Dolphins a first down. But the Dolphins still don't have a workhorse back. And the problem is Mostert, he's a speedster, and Chase Edmonds is a good player, to throw dump off passes to. But they don't have a consistency. At least they haven't formed it yet. So I'd like to see Chase Edmonds and Mostert have back-to-back runs. We haven't seen that, and that's a good thing. That means Tua's passing it, and I like to see that. But the Dolphins are going to be shut down in the air attack every few games. What does that lead to? That leads to the special teams game playing a big factor, right? Punting, not the bunt punt, but
that one.
But
Dude,
also Jason Sanders going up against Evan McPherson here. And then lastly, Tua keeping turnovers limited. He's very accurate, but his decision-making is always a concern, and I do not want any fumbles. Trey Hendrickson will make you pay. The Bengals have experience last year in the playoffs getting turnovers. The Dolphins need to play turnover-free football on Thursday night in order to win this game. Usually, and actually most of the time, I say that a game is going to be a shootout. I just don't see this game being a shootout. The Bengals haven't been as good as expected. However, Jamar Chase can make this game a shootout if Xavier Howard is not on his tippy toes and does not have an A-plus game. So now we get into our prediction times. We've broken down both of these teams very well. Obviously, not a lot of injuries here. We know who the stars are. Tyreek Hill, Jalen Waddle, Jamar Chase, Trey Hendrickson, Jesse Bates, Eli Apple is a star. Don't at me. Yeah, so we know who the stars are in this game. We know that Burrow and Tua are two interesting quarterbacks. One, I guess, can't throw deep, and one can't escape sacks. I'm just saying that's what Twitter says. But let's get into the prediction times. Jeremiah, I always let you go first, so I want to go first. I want to set the tone this time.
Set it.
I have the Bengals winning. Sorry, Dolphin fans. I'm being unbiased here in this prediction. I'm a Dolphin fan, and I don't see us winning this game. We've had limited rest. Like you said, Jeremiah, our defense has to be tired. Again, we played a long game on Sunday. I know it was at 1 o'clock, but it was a long game, and it wasn't just long because it went longer than it should have been with the butt punt, but Josh Allen was on the field literally the whole game. So Thursday night football, limited rest. Number 2, Tua is banged up. I expect him to play, but I don't think he's going to be at 100%. I don't even think he's going to be close to that. And number 3, I see the Dolphins' run game having no success against the Bengals this week, and Tua's going to have to throw the ball deep. And I'm a little bit concerned with Tua this week because the Dolphins did not expose the Bills' banged-up secondary last week. That one deep pass to Waddle was terrific, but you have to have more than that to keep up with the Bengals' top offense with Jamar Chase. So I know I wanted to set the tone by going first here, but I'm going to be honest, being unbiased. I'm a Dolphin fan. I want my Fins to win. But the Dolphins' defense is such a concern this week. Josh Allen is a top quarterback. Stephon Diggs is amazing. So it's reasonable for the Dolphins' defense to struggle last week. But the Dolphins' offense struggled. It was really the Dolphins' defense that kept us in the game last week. The Dolphins' offense was not good, and the Bills had so many injuries on their defense. So I just don't see the Dolphins winning this game, especially because it's primetime football on the road.
What's your final prediction? What's the score?
Final score. I had this one being low scoring. Joe Burrow hasn't had a ton of success this season. The Dolphins' offense has only had one good game, and that was against the Ravens, where they put up tons of points. But really, and we saw this a lot last season, it's the Dolphins defense that wins us the games. I have this game being 21-14. Simple. Bengals winning.
So I'm going to go through my crystal ball in this, right? If I look at it, the Miami Dolphins have had 3 games, and they've found a different way to win each one of those games. Okay. The Patriots, we got out early and just held on to the lead.
Yep.
The Ravens behind and then make the storm back in the fourth quarter. Last week was like Rocky, right? Just stood in and took punch after punch after punch just to have a chance at the end to throw one and get it back. This week, I think the Dolphins find another way to win, and that way to win is running the ball. I think they're going to run the ball. So far, in the first 3 weeks, we've yet to have 100 combined yards rushing. Everything has been throwing the ball. I think for Mike McDaniel and the crew, this is the perfect opportunity. I don't think Cincinnati's defensive line is as scary. I mean, you're right. There's some talent, but I think our offensive line can win those battles. The big thing is we need to run the ball to keep them off the field and give the defense that time to rest and come through. I also think that Mike McDaniel has got this team playing with a little more of a chip on their shoulder about still not getting respect. And you know, look, at the end of the day, your record's your record, and that's what you're playing for. But these guys all play for a reason to be looked at and to be given credit for what they're doing. And this Dolphins team has that natural chip on their shoulder because even though they're 3-0, watch any sports pundit you want to, man. Watch them all over. Everybody has an excuse. Oh, well, the Ravens blew coverage. Oh, well, the Bills secondary was beat up. Like, nobody's just saying, hey, Miami put together 4 quarters of football that was better than the other team. And so I think on national TV, the Dolphins are going to have that chip. Big thing here is, though, man, we have to get off the field on defense on third downs. So far this year, teams are converting almost 50%, maybe a little higher on third downs against the Dolphins. We're giving up sustained long drives. I see those 2 things being addressed this week. We get off the field on third. We run the ball on offense. I think it's going to be 21-17 Miami.
Okay, so I had 21-14. Interesting. Look, my opinion has not changed. I hope it would be because I'm a Dolphins fan. But you could be correct. I loved your analysis that the Dolphins have found a different way to win in each of the 3 games they've played in. So if they are going to win a different way, it would have to be the running game. And it's possible Chase Edmonds has had a 126 yard rushing game. That's his career high. Raheem Mostert had I don't know if you guys remember this, 220 rushing yards in a playoff game with 4 touchdowns.
Yeah.
And that's against talented defenses. So look, it is possible. And Raheem Mostert is speedy. And when you have Tyreek Hill and Waddle spreading the field, you could easily have 10-yard rushes, 10-yard rushes, 10-yard rushes. But Chase Edmonds is finding the holes. And if Raheem Mostert is getting the outside lane, it's possible. I just don't see it happening, man. If it happens, let's go. So, look, Thursday night football, the Dolphins should have a chip on their shoulder. The question is, are they tired? Not from Hurricane Ian, but from that game against the Bills. Another question is, how will Tua's back injury affect his play this week? Look, all of these questions will be answered on Thursday night football. The Bengals are wearing amazing jerseys. Those white jerseys with those black stripes, terrific.
So I got to ask you, there's the other question to be answered. Is Miami wearing color rush or are they going normal? Like, you know, Thursday nights people get a little funky on stuff.
I hope the Dolphins go throwback because if they do, that is, ladies and gentlemen, the best uniform matchup in NFL history. And
it would be fantastic. The white Bengals look tough, man. That looks really nice.
I am trying to find quickly. I don't think they've announced the Dolphins uniforms yet, but they better go throwback because you have to at least attempt to compete with those Bengals jerseys. I know it's going to be hard, but you have to at least try.
I wouldn't even mind going back to the orange. Break out the orange on one.
Oh, those are amazing. The orange.
Yeah.
The orange Orange, all orange.
But I feel
color
like I haven't watched a ton of the Thursday nights this year, but I feel like everybody does that, right? They do the color rush jerseys or whatever on Thursdays.
Yeah, but they're not as good as these Bengals ones.
Oh,
They're
no, the
not as
Bengals
good.
one is fantastic. The
Plus,
simple, the white and
plus they got
black is,
permission to use the white helmet,
yeah, it's crazy.
which is amazing. So yeah, guys, thanks everyone for watching. Obviously, this should be a great game. It's the only game on. So if you have power, I know a lot of Floridians are dealing with the hurricane, so stay safe. But if you have power, you better watch Tua go up against Joe Burrow, because this is going to be a great game. Both teams healthy. Both teams have terrific wide receivers. But we'll see what happens with the running game. Again, I know we're really highlighting on the Dolphins here because we're a Florida-based website and we're both Dolphin fans. But the Bengals haven't had a rushing touchdown either. Or not either, but they haven't had a rushing touchdown. So both of these teams, if they get their running games going, and this should be interesting because we know both of these offenses could throw the ball well. But I don't know about the running game. But hey, week 4 of this 2022 NFL season here getting underway. It's the Dolphins and Bengals. Jeremiah, thanks so much for joining me as always. Make sure to check out Fins in the Sea. We'll have an episode up soon. And any other shows we do here on FLTeams.com, make sure to drop a sub on our YouTube channel. And yeah, check out all of our other platforms at FL Teams. Any final words, Jeremiah?
Look, I'll just say to keep us calm again, right? As Dolphin fans all together, once we're done at Cincinnati, the next, running through the schedule quickly, at the Jets, Minnesota at home, Pittsburgh at home, at Detroit, at Chicago, Cleveland at home, Houston at home, San Francisco I'm just saying, that takes us into December. There's a lot of winnable games in there. And right now, 3-0, everybody's going to lose one at some point this season, right? Unless it's 72 and the Dolphins keep going, we're going to lose one. I hope this isn't it.
I think the game that we lose is the Lions.
Could be. They're a tough team too. Dan Campbell, I'd almost be okay with that.
And I think, you know what? This is a stretch, by the way. This is such a stretch, especially considering I had the Bengals winning this game.
Yeah.
Imagine if the Dolphins are undefeated heading into that matchup against the Lions. I just see the Lions and Dan Campbell they're going to be the team. The Lions are the one team that would be the team to break an undefeated season. Do you agree?
Absolutely. Especially for so many reasons for Dan Campbell and the way that team plays. And here's the thing. Again, what I'm afraid of, Isaac, and we'll wrap it on that, is if the Dolphins come out and they're flat on Thursday night and they don't look good, immediately everybody in the media is going to flip. Right. Yep. Everybody in the media is going to be right back on. And that shouldn't matter. And maybe it doesn't get through to these players, but I just feel like everybody's waiting on the Dolphins to slide so they can just say, told you so. The Ravens lost that game. The Bills lost that game. The Dolphins should be 1-3. I'm waiting on it. I just want the public to get a piece of what we've been seeing, which is some damn good football. So I hope Miami comes out all the way across the board and makes a little bit of a statement. So
basically, it's up to Chase Edmonds and Raheem Mostert, man. If they run the ball well, we could really prove people wrong here on Primetime Football. Thanks, everyone, for tuning in. Isaac Edelman, Jeremiah Hensley. Fins up. Everyone stay safe during Hurricane Ian. And, yeah, this should be an exciting matchup, man. I can't wait. Thursday Night Football. The Bengals have 5 primetime games. I believe the Dolphins only have 2. This game and the one against the Steelers. So the Dolphins only have 2 national TV games, so they better have a chip on their shoulder. Thanks, everyone, for tuning in.